part of this lecture is about encapsulation. Now, everybody has home, right? So you have your own properties, and everybody who lives, not everybody, people who live in the same house only are given rights to make use of the property. Correct or not? You do not allow strangers to walk into the house to take the property, take the asset and use it. But sometimes that can be allowed if the stranger actually asks permission through the occupant of the house. So that means we keep our assets private. And to get hold of the asset, anybody not within the home must go through the occupants, the residents. Same goes for object-oriented programming. The class is similar to the metaphor house. The fields which contains data. Data is gold, right? Data is gold in computing. These are the assets that you should keep them private. But being private may not be a good thing because we need to use them, sometimes not necessarily by within the class, but by objects from another class. That is when you need to get to them through the use of methods. So methods, okay, the metaphor for methods will be the occupants or the residents of that particular house. Not everything you want to keep private. For example, household generates trash from the kitchen. You can generate a lot of trash. And these things you do not want to keep private. You want to throw them out. And the dustbin, you want to let it be visible to outsiders, and you also let the garbage collectors to access it, right? So certain things, you want to make them public. Likewise, some data, you probably want to make them public so that anybody can see and can access it. Just like the garbage bins here. They are left outside the house. Public fields are like the garbage bin. Whereas important data, which are considered confidential, you make them private. That way, we can maintain order of the data. This is an issue. Why? Because before we have object-oriented programming, data are kept separately in a file or in a database, right? Now, with object-oriented programming, the data can be read from database or file or can be acquired directly from the user and stored inside the object. The object itself holds data and the methods to process the data. Methods are the algorithms to process the data, right? So having data inside the object, if you don't protect it, it is risky because we'll be passing the objects around from one subprogram to another subprogram, between programs, between computers. So that's why we need to keep the data private. So record this metaphor, okay? When you want to judge accessibility, recall this metaphor. Class is like the house, methods are the residents or occupants of that particular house. Private fields are like the assets inside that house. Okay, they contain important data. Public fields are data that you intentionally want to expose. Yeah? There are many reasons why we want to expose data. For example, to identify that particular object, you have to expose the identity, right? Otherwise, nobody knows. You would want people to know your name. You wouldn't want your name to be private. But probably you want to know, probably you want to keep your salary next time private. Or maybe you like to show off and you will tell everyone how much you earn per month. That is no longer private, right? Encapsulation is the design decision to make certain data private, certain data public, and for those private data, a proper way to acquire them. The recommended approach is to make use of method. Therefore, method, you have to make them non-private by making it public, so that outsider, any object external to this object can see the method. So remember this. Make important fields private and usually keep the methods public. If the fields are private, then you need methods to set and to get the content, right or not? This is where the setter method or mutator method comes into picture. This is where the getter method comes into picture. Getter method is used to acquire the value of the private field and return to the caller. Mutator or setter method is used to modify the content of the private field. You do not need mutator or getter if the field is not private. Does that make sense? Metaphor, the garbage bin, does the trash collector needs to get anyone's permission? No, right? It doesn't have to go through any method. You can access the content directly.